Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and today I'm going to be bringing you a PlayStation Vita tutorial, something I have not shown you all in a while. So for anybody who's been a bit out of the loop, previously if you had a PS Vita or PlayStation TV on firmware 3.60, you could install something called HENkaku, which was essentially a custom firmware for the Vita, allowing you to play homebrew, play other type of, really any type of homebrew games, emulators, applications, as well as install backup games through a multitude of different ways, and even unlock the PSP side of the Vita completely and pretty easily. Well, this has now been updated. Not only this works on all revisions of the Vita, of course, and the PlayStation TV, but this also works up to firmware 3.68. Right now, that is the highest firmware available. So if you're watching this in a few months or in a year, there might be another update, and this video might not apply to that. However, this is going to be for 3.65 and 3.68. I'm going to explain the differences on that real quick. What you can do is, if you want to see what firmware you are on, you can go over to your settings. Once you're in your settings, just wait for this to load up, go all the way down to System, and then go to System Information, and right here it should show your system software. As you can see, mine is on 3.6, meaning that it is already compatible with HENkaku. However, with firmware 3.65 and above, you can still access PlayStation Network right now, which is pretty important. On top of that, you can also play newer released games as well too, if you're going to try and aim for that. Now, the difference with 3.65 and 3.68, this is important. 3.65 allows you to have a permanent custom firmware called Ensō. 3.68, anything higher than 3.65, does not allow you to do that. So therefore, for example, if you're on 3.6 like I am, you want to update to 3.65. Even if you don't want to do the permanent custom firmware, it's still good to have the access and availability to it, because you cannot downgrade any PlayStation Vita system. I repeat, you cannot downgrade them. So if you decide, screw it, I'm on firmware 1.2, I just want to update to the latest, and then a few months down the line you want that permanent solution, you won't have that. So just update to the next highest firmware available that's going to work for you. In short, if you're on 3.65 or below, make sure you get on to 3.65. If you're on 3.67, update to 3.68. And if you're on 3.68, you're good, but you can't do any type of custom firmware permanent solution, unfortunately. So therefore, that's all been covered right there. Now you're going to need a few things for this. First of all, you will need the PlayStation TV or PlayStation Vita, and you need to determine which version you have. Because if you have a Vita 1000 unit, you have to have an official PlayStation Vita memory card. Just get the smallest one, cheapest one possible, you'll be good on that. Because I'm going to do a tutorial later on here soon at one point showing how to change that to a SD to Vita and use other storage. But in order to do this initially, you have to have that available. If you have a Vita 2000 or you have a PlayStation TV or a Vita TV, you do not need a Sony memory card because you have some built-in storage available. From here on out as well too, I'm going to just be saying Vita for everything in regards to that. So if you have a Vita 1000, Vita 2000, PlayStation TV, or a Vita TV, I'm just going to be calling it a Vita. That's just to avoid some confusion and just to stick with one term. So now that we've kind of covered our preliminary basis, I'm going to tell you the things you'll need. First of all, you will need the console. As I said, if you have a Vita 1000, you have to have a Sony memory card. If you have a 2000, a Vita TV, or PlayStation TV, you do not need that. On top of that, you're also going to need a network solution of some kind, so you're going to need to access a Wi-Fi connection. If you have a Vita TV or PlayStation TV, you can use a wired connection. However, if you're using the Vita handheld, you can only use a wireless connection. I'm going to be doing this all through my network here. And next up, you also will need a Windows capable or a Mac capable PC, because we're going to be using an application called Final HE, which is going to allow us to get over the exploit files that we need. And you will also need a PlayStation Network account. I wouldn't suggest using a main account on here, that's more just me. So I'd suggest going onto the PlayStation site, setting up an account there, and make sure you know the credentials so you could sign into them on your console. So first of all, we have to get to a supported and exploitable firmware. As you can see, I'm on 3.6, but I would like to update to 3.65. That way I can still use the permanent custom firmware solution. If you're on a higher firmware, take it up to 3.68, and be aware that you can still follow this guide, just omit the section that I'm going to cover later about permanent custom firmware, otherwise known as Ensō. So in order to do the update here, what you need to do is go over into your settings. Now go to network, go to network connection settings, and select your network method. Now, if you're on a handheld, you will only have Wi-Fi, but if you're on a TV system, you'll have LAN available, which I'm going to plan to use LAN. Once you have it selected, go ahead and press X on it, go to advanced settings, and go ahead and pick your settings here. Now, I'm going to do automatic for my IP. For DNS settings, this is the one that you need to change. You need to press X, go to manual, and select the primary DNS, and this is the DNS that you need to hit. So be 23.96.6.207. And that's it. So you don't need to update, you don't need to put anything in secondary here. Now all you need to do is make sure your proxy server is set to do not use and press OK. And go back. Now when you're all the way back at settings, go all the way down to system, go to auto start settings, and untick this download update file for system software. You just want to untick that, so that's of course not going to happen in the future here. So now at this point, go all the way up to system update. And as you can see, if you entered it correctly, you should get this. If you're on a version lower than 3.65, it will say version 3.65 HENkaku compatible. That is what you're wanting to utilize there. So I'm going to press next, go ahead, press yes, and wait for this to update. Well, we have to go through this first, hit accept, and update. Now this is going to download and then patch your system. Now what you'll need to know if you're on firmware 3.68 or if you don't want to use your network, I'm utilizing this because I cannot connect this Vita TV over to my computer using USB, unfortunately. You are going to have to use the content manager, so using my network such as Wi-Fi or wired has worked successfully for me, which is why I'm doing it with this method. However, if you do have a USB capability, so essentially if you have a Vita USB cable on the handheld system, you will be able to update your Vita handheld using Final HE. I'm not going to be covering that specifically here, however, it is available in the program that we will be downloading later on. So, example, if you have a firmware available on PlayStation Network, if the latest firmware is 3.7 or 3.8, you can use Final HE to take you to 3.68. This right here is going to take us to 3.65. That's what this server is available for. So what I'm going to do is let this finish downloading, let it update, and then restart to our menu. While you're waiting on this, however, go ahead and go to the two links I'm going to have down below in the description. You're going to need to download Final h-encore, or this is Final HE, and you're also going to need to download Ensō if you are on firmware 3.65, if that's what you are gunning after. So in order to download this, first of all, just look for Final HE, and if you're on Mac, you can get the Mac zip. If you're on Windows, get the Win32 zip, and just click it to download. For Ensō, go ahead and grab the Ensō VPK and download that, and just keep them somewhere on your computer where they will be easily accessible. Now that the Vita has restarted, you can go ahead and check to see what firmware you are on. So if you have updated, just go into your settings again, go all the way down to system information, and as you can see, I'm now on 3.65, meaning I am on the firmware I am needed to still connect to PlayStation Network, confirm and do the rest of this, while at the same time able to retain my permanent custom firmware option. So now we're going to need to change our network setting again. Doing this is quite easy, so all you need to do is go back, go over to your network, And this time we're doing this so we can block updates but still get onto PlayStation Network. So all you need to do is go over to your settings, select your option to connect to the internet, advanced settings, still keep this to do not use, but go to your primary DNS, and we now need to change this to another number. So as you can see, that is the primary DNS we need. Now once you've entered it, press OK, that's it, and hit OK. I'm going to back out of this now, and at this point you should have everything available for that. So what I'd recommend doing is now go to PlayStation Network, and this is assuming you do not have an account here. You can click sign up, wait for this to load up, and remember I had said before I recommended going onto the PlayStation website and setting up an account. Well, now you can use that, so I'm going to go to use an existing account, and I'm going to now sign into my account I have allocated specifically for this. So now at this point that you've logged into your account, gotten it set up, and make sure you can click on PlayStation Network and hit sign in fully. Once you have all of that, you should be good to go at this point. So what I'm going to do is exit out of my settings here, and now we're getting ready to continue on with this tutorial, which is going to involve moving over the applications that we have to have in order to get this exploit up and running. So at this point, you can now go back over to your computer, and you're going to now extract final HE and run it. When you're at the computer, go ahead, right click and extract this into another folder. Go inside of here, all you're going to find is final HE, right click, run this as administrator, assuming you're doing this on Windows, and wait for this to load up. It's now going to give you this option that's grayed out. I'm going to suggest hit trim h-encore to 13 megabytes because there's not really a reason for it to take up a couple hundred megabytes. All you need to do is launch that. Just tick that, and now it's going to say waiting for connection to PlayStation Vita. You now on your Vita need to launch the content manager and then connect it to your computer. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead and move back over to the Vita. On top of this as well, it's a good thing I moved this out of the way. You might see something like this where it's saying Windows Defender Firewall has blocked some features. You want to go ahead and allow access to this so it can communicate from your computer to your Vita. So if you have any firewall issues, that's probably going to be the trick there. But either way, go ahead and make sure your Vita is available to you, and I'm going to show you what you'll need to do. Over on your Vita, go ahead, go to Content Manager, go to Copy Content, go to PC, and as you can see, your PC that is hosting Final HE should come up. Mine is Angel, so I'm going to press X on this. So at this point, you might have a PIN number that you need to enter. My PIN number is showing up on Final HE right now. It should show the registering device with the PlayStation Network ID available, as well as the PIN. So all you need to do is press X here and enter the PIN that is showing on Final HE. Click register, it will now say the device is registered, and hit next. Now, as you can see here, it's showing us what options we have available. Go ahead and move back over to your PC, but keep this up and running. So now on your PC, once all that's done, it should say fetch backup key, click button to start, and that's literally all you need to do. Click let's go. It's now going to download all the things that you need, it's going to package them up, and then at that point it's going to deliver it over to your PlayStation Vita once we connect again. So just wait a few minutes for this to download and extract and do all of its magic. So now with this being complete, it will show you all the instructions right here, but I'm also going to show you these on the PlayStation Vita. So now that we're done, go ahead, move back over to your Vita, but keep this up and running. On your Vita, with this still running, go over to PC to Vita System, Applications, PS Vita. As you can see, h-encore should show up here, and it should be 13 megabytes if you selected to trim it, which again I would highly recommend doing. So go ahead, tick it by pressing the X button, then click copy, hit OK, and wait for it to transfer over your network. With all that done, press the PlayStation button, exit out of here, go back over, and you should see h-encore show up. If this shows up, you can go ahead and close out of Final HE on your PC because you do not need that at this point. So now on your Vita, just press X, launch this, and press yes to this. Now it will flash some funny colors, do a little bit of magic, and now you're going to get the bootstrap menu. So first of all, click on Install HENkaku by selecting it and pressing the X button. Next up, go to download Vita shell by selecting it, then press the X button. And that's all you need to do. So press X here to exit. And as you can see, you should now have Vita shell. So this is your technically second piece of homebrew you have on here. You can go down, press X, and here we go, it's all showing up. So this will essentially allow you to manage all your files and especially move files back and forth from your computer to your PS Vita using either USB or using FTP, whatever you'd like to do. So this will make it much easier as well too. However, in order to launch this every single time, so for example, if you turn off your Vita completely and turn it back on, you will have to run h-encore like so. Press yes there, wait for that, and then just press exit. And at that point, you can run your homebrew and do all that other stuff, and anything else will be available to you. But that is it. So at this point, we technically have all of that ready, and our Vita is now modded. Now, there's a few other things we should do to further optimize that. First of all, go over to your settings, start. After all this is run, and as you can see, there's a new feature here called HENkaku settings. Press X, you want to enable PSN spoofing, enable unsafe homebrew, enable version spoofing, and the spoofed version is going to be the latest firmware that is available for your Vita, which here is 3.68. And that's about all you need. So the most important one, as I said, is enable unsafe homebrew, because we are going to need that to do a few other installs. Now go ahead, go back over to Vita shell, press X, and we're going to change a few things here. As you can see, now that we're in unsafe mode, we have a lot more options available to us. So this step is going to seem a little bit hairy, but trust me, it'll be fine. You know how every single time we launch h-encore, we get that trophy warning? I'm going to show you how to disable that on here. So this is what you'll need to do. Go ahead, go all the way down to UX0, select user, find that real quick. There we go, user 00, save data, and this should be it right here, this PCSG 90096. You need to press triangle, select open decrypted by pressing X on that, and you want to make sure this is what you're seeing. You need to see SCE_sys and system.dat. If you see anything else, you did not do this correctly. Again, you need to press triangle and open decrypted. If you just go in normally, it's going to look a little bit different, but you must open it decrypted. So here you need to move down to the system.dat file, go ahead, press triangle, copy, press X on that. Now go up here, out to this folder, and we're going to press triangle and paste. So now all of that is good to go. Now this will be selected, it's going to have like this bar on it. Press square to get rid of that. Now go up to this folder, the PCSG one, triangle, and go to delete. And yes, we do want to delete this folder. We know what we're doing there. So now go ahead and exit out of here, go back up, and go to h-encore. Press X to launch this, and wait. Now this is going to look a little bit different. It's going to act like an actual game at this point. So now as you can see, it's going to give you this error. That is totally fine. We can't continue any further because the game is messed up. So go ahead, press the PlayStation button, exit out of that completely, go back into Vita shell. So now as you can see, the folder has come back. So all you need to do is click triangle on your system.dat out here, copy it, go into PCSG, but hit triangle and open decrypted, and then paste it into this folder. And there you go. Now you might have an issue, I'm just going to warn you all, if you paste it from right here, it might not work. So I'd recommend highlighting SCE_sys and then doing it. But it should show up there, so you can just go back up here, delete out of this folder called save data, delete the system.dat that was here, excuse me, that's not what I want. You want to just delete this one, and now exit out of this. Now go ahead, go back over to h-encore, press X, And as you can see, it did all of its magic without having to bug you about trophies. So that's how to get rid of that warning. So at this point, your Vita is technically modded. It should be good to go. You should just have to launch this every single time you want to do something whenever you cold boot your Vita. However, we're going to take this one step further, and this is because we are on firmware 3.65. So if you're on a higher firmware, aka 3.68, do not repeat this step here. This step is exclusively for 3.65. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going to put a notice on the screen, and it's just going to say 3.65, and when this notice disappears, then it's no longer going to be exclusive to that. But as long as 3.65 is on screen, these next steps are only going to be for 3.65 owners. Alright, so at this point, what you'll need to do is, first of all, open up Vita Shell. And I'm going to be doing this over FTP, so what that means is I'm going to be doing a network transfer. Right now I can't seem to be doing it over USB. However, if you have the option to, first of all, press the Start button, and as you can see, you can pick a different theme. You can select what you want to use for your USB device. I'm going to keep this to memory card, and then your Select button should be either USB or FTP. If you want to just do it over USB, select USB. I'm going to do this over FTP. However, one thing I seem to notice here is that even if I don't have a USB device connected here, it seems to default to FTP even if I select USB. But either way, go ahead, pick what you want to do, press circle, and then press the Select button. And right here, you're now going to open up a FTP server if you're going to be doing it this way. So now at this point, you need a FTP client on your computer. So let's go ahead and go back to the PC. Now, I used to recommend FileZilla. However, recent builds of FileZilla have been coupled with malware, so I'm going to be using WinSCP as per the recommendations of several people. I'll have the link down below in the description, but all you need to do is install this. You can use it using the commander way and just install it here. And that's it. So even if you're a FileZilla user, it might ask you to bring over settings. I'm just going to say yes. Now once you're done here, go ahead and launch WinSCP. So once this all comes up, go ahead and select FTP. You don't want to do SFTP, no encryption. Type in your IP and your port number. So these are going to be showing on your screen, but mine, for example, your Vita screen, mine, for example, here is 192.168.1.249, and my port number is 1337. Hit login, username, I'm just going to hit OK, hit OK on those because there's no username or password required here, and that's about it. So as you can see, we are now accessing the Vita over our network. So all you need to do is go to UX0, and inside of here, UX0 is essentially your storage device, like your memory card or whatever you are using. So what I like to do is create a new folder. I'm just going to go here, new directory, and I will call it VPK. Hit OK on that, and now enter VPK. Now on the left side here, you are going to need to navigate to where your folder is. You can just do that essentially by either like typing it in right here, or doing whatever you want, like navigating by, you know, clicking this and going through your PC itself and your drives. Once you get here though, just go ahead, grab the VPK file, right click, upload, just going to put it there, hit OK, and that's it, it's done. So at this point now, you can right click, disconnect, and that's all you need at that point. Let's go ahead and go back over to the Vita. So now at this point, you can go back over to your Vita, press circle to cancel, and as you can see, the new folder called VPK should show up. So press X, go down to Ensō.vpk, press X here, install the package. It's going to warn you that this could mess with something if you're installing a bad package, but we're going to continue because we know what it does here. And now all you need to do is press the PlayStation button once that's done, and exit out of any applications you have. Now go into your newly bouncing Ensō, press X, and wait for this to launch. It will now tell you to press circle to accept these conditions. Make sure you read them. So press circle, and now it will give you a few options. Since we are installing this, press the cross or X button. And that's it. All you need to do is now press any key to reboot, which I'm going to press the X button here and wait a few seconds for this to reboot. So once it's done rebooting, as you can see, What we can do to now test that this works is go to Vita shell, press X to launch it, and if it launches without telling us or giving us any errors, then congratulations, at this point you now have a permanently modified system. If you do ever want to get rid of this, and by the way, while we're here, I'd recommend press triangle, delete this VPK out because we're not going to need it, but I would recommend keeping the Ensō application on here. Now if you ever want to revert back for whatever reason, all you need to do is launch this again, press circle, and you can press triangle to uninstall the hack. Square, of course, that says to fix your boot configuration, but here I'm just going to exit out. So that's all you need to know at this point. Now at this point, the 3.65 exclusive stuff is done. So we can continue onwards if you're on any firmware. And what I'm going to show you how to do is how to load plugins on the system. That will be the last thing I show you here, and then I'll let you go and have fun with your system. Alright, so over at your PC, I'm going to show you a VPK here that you can install, which is the Vita homebrew browser. And I'm also going to show you all no npdrm. This is essentially going to be the recommended plugin that you use for playing any backup games that you utilize on here. This is great for not only backing up your own games, but also playing your backed up games as well too. It's going to be used for either. But plugins come in a skprx file. All you need to do is click this and save it. And now I'm also going to get the VPK here, which this will be Vita homebrew browser. Click this and save it. So now at this point, we are also going to need a way to transfer files between our Vita and our computer. So what I recommend you use is WinSCP. I had shown this in the 3.65 portion, but I'll show it here again. The reason why I'm doing this is because I cannot utilize USB on my system here, but let's go ahead and go over to the Vita and I will show you all what you need to do to get this set up. On your Vita, this is very easy. Make sure you're connected to your local network, go to Vita shell, press X to launch it, and once it launches, you need to press the start button and select what you want to do. So first of all, the USB device should be memory card. For the select button, I'm going to change this to FTP and press circle to exit out of here. Now press the select button, and it will now bring this up saying FTP server is now running. Now the first set of numbers, the 192.168.1.249, that's your IP. The second set of numbers is your port. So keep this up and running, make sure you can see it, and let's go back over to our PC with WinSCP. With WinSCP, all you need to do is click on FTP, no encryption, type in the IP, and then your port number, and log in. It'll ask you for credentials, but you don't need any credentials here. So now at this point, you can go into your UX0 directory, and this is your memory card that you will need to access. On the left side of the screen, go ahead and find the folder you've been saving things to. Hopefully you've been saving them to a folder. So now when you're in here, I'd recommend for this, go into your VPK directory that we made, grab your Vita homebrew browser, make sure you upload this, hit OK, and that's done. You can now go back here. Now at this point, you need to go up one folder and look for UR0. Inside of here, look for a tai folder. And this tai folder in UR0 is where you need to put your plugins. So take your no npdrm, right click, upload, press OK, and it's uploaded. However, this is not enough. We now need to configure it to run on boot. So take this config file, right click, and say download, and we're going to download this over right here. And now I'd recommend using something like Notepad++ to edit this file. Now all you need to do is take your config file, edit it, and this might look a little bit scary at first, but it's pretty easy to navigate through. So what I'm going to do first off is just put some line breaks here to make it a little bit more readable. Like I'll do this for example. Let's see, that's kernel, this is main, here we go, and there. So something like that looks a lot more legible, as you can see. So no npdrm is going to be a kernel plugin that we have to put on our system. So at this point here, I would recommend go ahead and grab the file name, which the full thing is no npdrm.skprx, copy that out, and then type it or just paste it right here. But you need to put in the path for this. So I'm going to type in UR0 : tai / and that should be it. And you can go ahead and make a new line at the end there just to make it more legible. I'm going to press S at that point to save it, Control S, and that's it. So the only thing we've added to this is the no npdrm kernel plugin. It depends on what you're going to be working with and such, but one of these, for example, is a kernel plugin. Most of the time you will be putting in kernel plugins. So one thing you do need to know is if you are running Ensō, anything here will load up on boot. If you are not running Ensō, that means that every single time you want to load your plugins, you have to launch the h-encore application. Once you do that, your plugins will then load. If you are having issues, like let's say you put in a bad plugin and your system starts rebooting and all that stuff and it's going crazy, what you can do is you can bypass them by holding the left shoulder button on boot. This is mainly if you're using Ensō, so therefore it would bypass that plugin usage. So go ahead, exit out of this. Now that we have that modified, I'm going to take this config file, upload, hit OK. It's going to ask you if you want to overwrite this, say yes, and now the config file is over on our system. So all I need to do is disconnect from here, and then go back over to the console. So press cancel here. As you can see, Vita HB browser should show up if you're in this folder. I'm going to press X again, and let that install. Press X one more time. So now with all that installed, I'm just going to press triangle, delete this out of here because we no longer need that. And now one thing I do want to show you all, just in case you do want to edit here, like if Notepad looked a little too scary, you could do it through this method as well too. Just go to UR0, go to tai, go to config.txt, and press the X button. And as you can see right here, any changes we made now show up. Now what you can do is you can press like the triangle button here, for example, insert an empty line. You can press X. And as you can see, you can type this way. It's a lot more annoying in my opinion, but you can do it nonetheless. And if you want to save something, you can press the circle button. It will ask you if you want to save. Here, I do not want to save, so I'm going to say no. But that's also just letting you know that you can edit this directly on your Vita as well too. So now at this point, with all that said and done, I'm going to press the PlayStation button, go here, and now right there, Vita homebrew browser is running. But to make sure that these are running, just go ahead and restart your Vita. So I'm going to go into my HENkaku settings, go all the way down here, reboot device, and wait a few seconds. So now at this point, that is it. You're not going to notice any difference here. However, for either dumping your games or playing any backup games, you will have that available. So if you got here, congratulations, the plugin should be loaded in successfully. Now, what I'm also going to show you all for our very last thing is the Vita homebrew browser, which that is the one other application I recommended you installed. Just go ahead, launch this, and wait. And make sure, of course, you're connected onto your internet connection. So it might take a while to load up the very first time. This was at a black screen for about a minute or two, but as you can see, there is quite a bit of Vita homebrew that you can download right here that is all pretty good stuff. So I'd recommend playing around with this as well too if you're at all interested. Games, ports, emulators, all that fun stuff. So I'm not going to download anything here right now, but I'll let you all go ahead and have fun with that. So as you can see, that is it. We now have a 3.65 system that is on permanent custom firmware, has the Vita homebrew browser, and is all good to go in terms of playing any sort of backup or dumped games. Of course, just remember, if you're on firmware 3.68, you will have to launch h-encore every single time you boot up your Vita out of a cold boot. So just remember that. And now that's about it for this tutorial. It was a lot longer than I expected, but it's also harder to do this time around than it was on 3.60. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated, and if you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too. But let me know what you think of this, and let me know what you're using your Vita for.